Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. We're broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the United Kingdom and across the world. We're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. And folks, we're also on TikTok. Please do send in your comments. Please do send in your questions, and please send in your greetings. Tell us where in this great land you are viewing from, and indeed if you are forth of this great land anywhere in the world, please do also send in your greetings, because we love to hear from you. And this is the wonder about digital platforms, is that we're broadcasting across the world. Anybody with an internet connection can get to youtube.com/UK A Force for Good, or our equivalents on any of our other platforms, and see us. And tonight we have got a very distinguished guest. He is an official candidate now at the Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election, and he's going to be on the show at 7:30. I am talking about friend of A Force for Good, Mr. Niall Fraser, who is standing for the Scottish Family Party. So he's going to be on at 7:30. We're going to have a good conversation with him for 25 minutes or so, and we're going to be hearing about the lie of the land in Rutherglen and Hamilton West, and what he's been doing and what people have been saying to him, and his thoughts on this most important by-election, because it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes down, and everybody is hoping for an SNP defeat, ideally the hands of Niall, but certainly an SNP defeat. Is that going to happen? We'll be listening to Niall's point of view on that. That's at 7:30. Now, folks, if you're watching on TikTok, you won't see the interview at 7:30. You'll only just see me talking. But if you want to see Niall, make sure you're on facebook.com or YouTube or Twitter /UK A Force for Good. And Sunny says, hello from up north on TikTok. And P. Menace says, A Force for Good is a think tank. We absolutely are. We absolutely are. We are the premier Unionist, pro-UK, pro-British think tank and campaign group, which should quickly be added, in Scotland. We are a think and do tank. A think and do tank, as it were, or a do and think tank. But we are the boys in the red, white and blue. So if you do support us, please give us a thumbs up. Please share. Please tell your friends, because that's how we get heard. And a very big welcome to everybody who has come in this evening. We're getting a full house. Derek was first in. He says good evening, and he asks a good question here, because something that never gets a mention is school holidays now, because it used to be that Scottish schools and the rest of the UK had similar holidays, which meant that if you had family down in Scotland, it's down in England or up in Scotland, depending upon what end of the country you're looking at it from, then you could visit your family and your children would be off school at the same time. But now it doesn't seem to work like that. Why is that? Asks Derek. That's a good pro-British point. School holidays should be... Well, does anybody know why school holidays are different in Scotland and England? Or is it just the Scottish education system going, we're going to be different from England on this. This is something else in which we can make a distinction. It's annoying, says Derek. Good evening, Debbie. Good evening, Unionist. Good evening, Harry. How are we all today? We're doing well. We're doing well. Paul from the Garden of England, otherwise known as Kent, says hello. And James Hunt says hello from Bowness. Nice to see you in the house. James, please do stick around. And hello to Adam from the heart of rural England. And from Stuart from the heart of Inverness-shire, otherwise known as Elgin. And nice to see Tommy. Hope you're doing well, Tommy. Adam says England beat Scotland. Apparently they did 3-1 yesterday in football. D. Stanners says it's a wet Kilsyth evening. Alan says that he's going to dip in and out because he's working, but he's still able to see the show. Good stuff, good stuff. Don't let your boss catch you. Dominic says hello from Wishaw. Good to see Dominic. And Christopher says, deservedly so, to Adam. And good evening to Catherine. And Derek says it's good to see Niall back tonight. And hi to Stephen. And to Derek and to Kat. And Kat, thanks for all your support that you've given. And brilliant Alan. Good man is Alan. Christopher says hello from Falkirk, which is twinned, it seems, tonight with Venice. Indeed. So we've been quite busy. We weren't broadcasting last week because we were putting the finishing touches to issue 9 of our magazine Union Heart, which is called King and Country, and it's a 16-pager. It's the first time we've done 16 pages. We've done 8 pages, 12 pages, 20 pages and 40 pages, but this is the first time we've done a 16-pager, so I'm very excited to see how it's going to look and feel. It's not yet at the printers because we are having a little bit sticking point as far as raising the money to get it to the printers. Can you believe that? We're still about 120 quid out, but I'm hopeful in the next 10 days or so we'll raise that money to get it to the printers in order to produce it. But I can give you a quick flash here of the front page. King and Country. Now just imagine that full colour. It's going to look amazing. Oh, and let me tell you, it's dedicated particularly to Scotland and the monarchy. And we talk about the role of the monarch. We talk about the Bruce to Charles family tree, as we always do. We talk about the concept of sovereignty and how it relates to the sovereignty of the people. We talk about the styles and how the kings are numbered. We talk about the monarch's relationship in the UK with the national religion of Christianity. We talk about the British national anthem, which was in the news today. We talk about how Scotland has always been a monarchy, even when England was a republic. And we talk about going right back to the early kings of Scotland, including the legendary ones such as Fergus MacFerchard, who even has his own portrait in Holyrood House Palace, would you believe? And we give the backstory to all of that. And then we have 2 pages explaining how the monarchy actually delivers a profit. You know how they always talk about, oh, the monarchy costs so much per person. Well, what about the profit per person which it delivers? Because you don't just have costs, you also have benefits as a consequence of those costs. So we spin it around and we look at the actual profit that the monarchy delivers per person, which in this tax year is about £3 per head, which is certainly good going. And then we finish with policies, some updated policies to strengthen the monarchy. And you know, if all these Scottish football fans that boo what they think is the English national anthem, if they were forced to read our magazine, then if it was compulsory, then they would change their tune. I'm telling you, they'd change their tune because they would realise how the British monarchy is an essential part of not just Scotland, but in fact the United Kingdom. But do they want to learn? I think some of them do want to learn, and that magazine will be there for them if they choose to pick it up at our street stalls, which we'll be having and distributing. But of course some people don't want to learn, and they just make up excuses for their republicanism. But the fact is, the British monarchy has Scottish roots, and it's arguably more Scottish than English, because one of the things that we discovered was that the Scottish kings didn't really want to trace their line through the Normans. They wanted to trace the line through the Irish, because it was through the Irish that they could even trace the line right back to the Holy Land. And so, fascinating history, and we're bringing it out. We're bringing it out, proud to say. So if anybody wants to help us get that to the printers, then please do drop 120 quid into our kitty at aforceforgood.uk/donate to, folks. Thanks very much. Alan Jack says it's a national anthem that we share with Liechtenstein. Yes, there's certainly the melody is the exact same. I know that, because this is just how ignorant some of the people are. Scotland was playing Liechtenstein, and the Liechtenstein national anthem started to play, and these people were, some of the Tartan army types were booing the national anthem of Liechtenstein because they didn't like the melody. Can you believe that? That's so embarrassing. So embarrassing. Harry correctly points out that the Commonwealth of England period wasn't a good period of English history, really. That was when they cut off poor old Charles I's head, and it was when basically the people didn't have to do what the king said anymore, and they were relieved from having to do that. What they had to do now was to do whatever Oliver Cromwell told them to do. So it really didn't make a whole lot of difference. And then, of course, Oliver Cromwell died, and his son Richard came along, and his son Richard didn't really have the attitude that Cromwell had and wasn't able to hold things together in any way. And so what did they do? They brought back the man Charles II to be the king again, because it worked out best, as it always does, that the monarchy was the best way of running the country. And by that time, Charles II had already been crowned. He had already been crowned King of Great Britain at Scone Palace. Not many people remember that, but we remember it, and we talk about it in our magazine, so I can't wait for that to come out. Adam says a Scottish Republic flag was somehow seen at the Cyprus match. Well, yeah, surprise, surprise. Paul Hadlow says royal events are basically landmarks. You're right, they are like landmarks in the life of the British people and the nation, and you can trace the nation of Britain through lots of things, but especially through these royal dates. Good point, Paul. Alan says, what do we think about the SNP opening a safe drug consumption room? It seems to be enabling self-harm and is against the law. I don't know if it's against the law, quite what that is, but it certainly sounds another wacky idea that I do hope does not end in the disaster which it appears to have done in these other countries where that sort of thing is encouraged. That's all I can say about that. I know that's a difficult issue because it does involve people ending up dead. But certainly they've made a complete mess of it for Scotland to be such a leading Europe in drug deaths is a terrible, terrible indictment of the people who are running Scotland at the moment. Adam says the British anthem got booed. Yeah, we've said that. Silver Fox Hot Takes says that if England players booed the Scotland anthem, or if English fans booed the Scottish anthem, then the Scotnats would complain. That's certainly true. But if Scotland supporters booed the British anthem, they are in fact booing their own anthem. That's correct. That is correct. It's just a pity that somehow what happened in Scotland and in British football was, and it starts from back in about the 1970s, a certain element of the Tartan Army decided that they would basically weaponise the Scottish football team as a Scottish nationalist outfit, or as a Scottish nationalist project, as it were. And they started to boo the national anthem. And when they did that, and it came at the same time as the Corries wrote this dirge called Flower of Scotland. And so somehow Flower of Scotland became the anthem for Scotland, and England kept the anthem that had been for both teams, which was God Save the King. So it now looks, if you don't know any better, you think that's the national anthem of England, when of course it's not. It's actually the national anthem of the United Kingdom. So that's not a good thing to see. I don't know what the answer is to that at all, but it's painful to see people imagining that setting up that conflict in that way. It's a kind of victory that the Scotnats had, unfortunately, and it's not. It's very annoying. But good old Ali McCoist was quite strong today about how he was standing up singing the national anthem, and how he thought that the people who were booing were SNP folk. That's the quote. And he also was singing the national anthem because he says, "I'm British." Quite right, mate. Quite right. Well said. Now, so we've been doing a lot, as I say, since I last saw you. We counted the Scottish Nationalist March, the one that they claimed they had 25,000 on. We counted them in at 3,989, over 6 times fewer than what Humza Yousaf claimed that they were. And Leslie Riddoch, who's a prominent Scottish nationalist, she put out that they got 25,000. But it was fantastic to see our video being used as a community note on Twitter to correct her. And in fact, we've got a picture of the Riddoch tweet here with the correction appended by community notes. And we'll bring that up. There we go. Apparently police confirmed 25,000 attended. Well, no, they didn't. And as you see at the bottom, readers added context. There were 3,989 attenders, as anyone can check here, with a link to our video. And then furthermore, as the evening and day wore on, that community note got currently rated helpful because it directly addressed the post's claim and it cites high quality sources, which is to say a forceforgood.uk. That was really nice to see. That was really nice to see. So our correct tweet with all the information there gets seen over 100,000 times. So we're doing what we can to correct the Scottish nationalists. And then the next day on the Sunday we were out with another street stall as well. And then the next week we were finishing our magazine, and this week we've started on our next project, which is a book which we are going to get done for the end of November. That's the big project that we're going to work on now. More about that. And talking about the book's purpose will be to educate activists, and it will be to educate politicians, and it will also be to address matters that are going to be pertinent next year, which is going to be the general election year. It's going to be 30,000 words, it's going to be 125 pages, and it's most certainly not going to be our last word on the subject, because it's going to be the first part of a much bigger project. And our intention is to release a book a year for at least the next 10 years, part of a long series of books. And we've got an amazing name for that project, but I'm keeping that under my hat for the moment. But part 1 will be appearing at the end of November, God willing, and if we can raise the money We always have to raise the money for everything that we do. But I'll be writing it anyway, although when the time comes we'll need a little bit of cash to pay designers, etc. and so forth. But that's going to be our next big thing. And talking about the sort of advice that we will give to politicians, and that will appear in this book, let me just, before our guest comes on, let me just quickly talk about the sort of thing that we're going to be talking about. I was watching one of the front benchers the other day having a go at the SNP at Westminster, and the SNP person was attacking the Tories and was attacking people on the front bench by name and doing them down in that way. And when this front bencher stood up, this person kept referring to the record of, quote unquote, the Scottish government. Now, I've been here a million times, but I want to just make the following points here. The Scottish Nationalist Party will always make the personal political. They will always make the political personal. Okay, it's not the British government. It's Rishi Sunak of the Tories. It's Boris Johnson of the Tory party. It's Theresa May of the Conservative government. They name the person and they name the party if they can. They don't just talk generally about Westminster or the British Parliament. Sure, they talk about those things, but they make the personal political. And that's the correct way to do it, because that's what gets people riled up and gets them on your side. Okay, so instead of this person who shall remain nameless complaining about what the Scottish government is doing, so many mistakes there, so many mistakes. I'll tell you, for one, it suggests that this Scottish government is an equal and opposite government to the British government, which of course it is not. It does not possess the same constitutional powers, and in fact it's not actually a government because it doesn't have full sovereignty. It has sovereignty on some issues, but not most of the bigger issues. So, firstly, you're setting up the Scottish government as if it's an equal and opposite force to your British government, which it's not. The second point is, it misses the point that the actual Scottish government is the British government. Okay? The British government is the government of Scotland. So every time you talk about the Scottish government as if it's something different to you, then your government dies a little bit. Okay? You are abdicating your authority because you, British Parliament, and the government which is formed from it, you are the Scottish government. So why are you giving this power, this name, to somebody else? That's a vast, important issue. You're giving away all that power. You're abdicating your responsibility when you say that somebody else is the Scottish government. No, British government, you're the Scottish government. Third point, when you talk about the Scottish government, you're going to get a knee-jerk reaction. And I feel it myself sometimes when they say that. It's like, you having a go at the Scots, mate? Are you having a go at the Scottish? And that's all that some people hear. Quite understandably so. And so you're putting people's bristles up unnecessarily when you're criticising the Scottish government. You should say the SNP. It's all easily corrected. It's all easily corrected. You don't say the Scottish government. You say if you insist on using the word government, and I'd much prefer that you said administration, or call it what it used to be, and still is, the executive. But if you insist on using the word government, at least say the devolved Scottish government. At least put the constitutional relationship in its correct place. It's a devolved Scottish government which is devolved from your government and your parliament. Secondly, don't say Scottish, say what it is, the SNP. So say devolved SNP government, or devolved SNP Green Coalition, which is even better. And what's even better is to then name them personally. The devolved SNP Green Coalition run by Humza Yousaf and Patrick Harvey. Okay, so in that phrase, you've explained the proper constitutional relationship as devolved. You've explained specifically what parties are to blame, SNP and Green, and you've named them as real people, Humza Yousaf and Patrick Harvey. And that is so much more powerful than just some bland attack on the Scottish government, which is so bland and sterile and meaningless, and, as I've just explained, likely to backfire in your own face. So that's the sort of wisdom, the political wisdom that's going to be going into our new book. So if you support that message getting directly to the politicians, then please do support us by becoming, for example, a monthly donor at our Union Supporters programme. Folks, we've got the man Niall Fraser coming up in 3 minutes' time at the bottom of the hour. Good. Let's get some comments here. Paul says they should only have one anthem when British teams meet. Christopher says perhaps have a specific anthem for England as such as Jerusalem, with the British anthem to be played at all events. That's a thought. Alan says, got some good news here. The UK has climbed up to the world's 8th largest manufacturer of goods. Crikey. Leapfrogging France and Germany, while they're headed for another recession. Stuart liked the points that I had made. Thank you, Stuart. British legend liked Adam Bray's point. Which I think was this: if the Scottish government is... No, the British government is the Scottish government, is my point. Yeah. And the capital of the UK could be in Edinburgh instead of London. Who'd govern England? Would England finally get a First Minister and a devolved government at Westminster? Do you know what? Suggest that to some civil servant and they'll put whatever that was into action, Adam, knowing our crazy politicians. And as Stephen says, it would be far better, of course, to call the devolved legislatures executives, which is what they used to be called until David Cameron changed the law and wrote it into the Scotland Act that they were now to be called governments. Another great thing to thank his government for, unfortunately. Okay, so folks, we don't have time today for a competition. We may have a competition next week, but what I want to go straight into tonight is to say hello to Niall Fraser. Many of you will know Niall, but Niall is the candidate for the Scottish Family Party at the British Westminster by-election, which is happening on the 5th of October. So folks, please say hello to Niall.
Oh, Alistair.
Hi, good evening, Niall. Yes, I just said you're the official candidate now because is it true that all the candidates... Well, we know all the candidates have been announced. When was that?
So the deadline was yesterday, so I was in the office yesterday. I mean, usually I'm a last-minute guy, but I did think it was a bit late, if I'm honest. So there's 14 official candidates that were released to yesterday night. It was broadcast on STV, and you'll be able to find it through South Lanarkshire Council as well. I see that there's someone called the Emperor of India running. So this is no Diddy election. This is huge. The Emperor of India. This is my opponent.
We'll tell you what. We'll put up the list actually of all the candidates, so we can just read them. And I did notice that whether that's a joke candidate or not, who knows? We've got the Liberal Dems, something called the Scottish Socialist Party, who have arrived on a time machine from the 1990s. We've got some so-called independent people.
Yes, which is good to see independents running. That is good.
Yes, so long as you know what they stand for, because quite a few of these people can get in, and they find out they actually vote for the SNP. So we've always got to be careful until we know for sure. The Greens, there you've got your Emperor of India, Prince Ankit Love.
Yes.
It's strange. We've got Niall Fraser. We've got Volt UK, whatever they are, the Tories, the SNP, another socialist coalition called Scottish Labour, Reform UK, and another Independence for Scotland party. So what's that, 14 candidates standing?
Yes. Well, we can boil that down to two, Alistair. There's only two actual candidates in this race. There's me versus the machine. So I've been saying this for a while now. We need to sort of cut the chaff. There's only two candidates, and I'm making it very simple for everyone. There's two candidates. There's me and the machine. So who do you want to give your vote to?
That's actually a very good way of analysing it, when one considers the machine is these big parties that have been around for a while and beginning to get maybe a little bit stale, some people would say now. Let's talk about the campaigning that you've been doing. You've been on the streets of Rutherglen and Hamilton West, and is it just you, or do you have a team with you? And when you go out, what do you do?
So it's not just me, but it does sometimes feel like it did start off with just two people, me and a guy who runs the local church in the area, and he was running the street stalls. So we go Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, we have street stalls. We've been dominating the high street, Alistair, absolutely dominating it. You couldn't pass through Rutherglen without seeing our flags and banners everywhere and our supporters. So it's going fantastically well. But we're growing in size and number every week, you see. So it's not just been, it started off small, handed out leaflets, and then as people got to know us, just random people who want change enacted, have just given up their free time of their own volition to help us canvass, to help give it leaflets. And if you're listening, thank you very much for doing that, folks. It's very much appreciated. But again, it all funnels into what we're trying to accomplish here. So it's brilliant. On the streets, I've got some funny stories about what I've been hearing on the doors. Just for instance, you'll like this one as well. So we're on the doors, and so you had to get 10 signatures for your nomination, right? So, I'm just knocking on random doors, cold calling, just in my local area in Burnbank, and I'm saying, my name's Niall Fraser, I just live round the corner, I'm going to be running in the Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election. All I need from you is a signature, blah, blah, blah. And often they say, so what party are you with? And I say Scottish Family Party, but for this document, you don't necessarily need to support me. For instance, you just need to give your assent. And they said, are you SNP? I said, absolutely not. And they're like, give me the paper. Give me the paper, and and my wife's in the other room, and she'll sign it as well. So that happened on multiple instances, Alistair. No word of a lie. So this is the thing. I think the anti-SNP sentiment is huge, absolutely huge. And this is what I'm getting across the doors, on the street stalls, everywhere I'm going. The anti-SNP vote is gigantic.
Excellent. That's good to hear. So, am I right in saying that you actually live in the constituency then?
That's right. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh well, that's local man, as they say. That might be worth a few votes. That's good. I should imagine not all the candidates live in the constituency. I should imagine most of them live outside it, quite frankly.
Well, if you'll see I can be my own election agent because I live in the constituency. Otherwise, you would need an election agent who lives in the constituency to, do all your paperwork for you. It has to be a constituent. So I can imagine a lot of the candidates do not live in the constituency at all. Maybe don't know the area, don't know the names of the streets or anything like that. Don't know the local spots. Yes, I think it's a massive bonus to have a local person who lives in one of the most run-down areas of the constituency. And that's me, I'm coming up right from the ground to swallow up the SNP.
Good. Well, you've certainly got a good attitude on that particular matter. Now, when people, do you have any sort of trouble from people? What's the sort of things that people will? Because you're on the street. Are you on the street for several hours?
Yeah, so we are on the street for hours. Like I said, we're dominating the high street. So we're there Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Saturday's our big day. We'll do 11 o'clock in the afternoon to 4 p.m. or maybe even just later than that, 5 p.m. The issue with our campaigning is it's not an issue really. We have this big sign with the Scottish Family Party, and it says a man can't become a woman. Simple. And the weeks leading up to this, this sign seems to have been triggering a lot of people in the street. This basic fact has been triggering a lot of people. So I thought, you know what, I need to address the fact that this sign is triggering people, because we can't physically move on to other issues and tackle other issues until this insidious lie that you can change sex is defeated. If we can't all agree, and I said this in a speech, I said that if we can't 100% agree that a man can't become a woman and vis-a-vis vice versa, then we can't actually move on at all. It makes no sense. And we're just living in this fantasy world if we think we can correct and solve any of the problems facing us if we can't agree on basic fact. We're not on the same platform. This sign is causing controversy in all the wrong ways, as it shouldn't be any. It's not controversial. I was called a racist for having a sign that says a man can't become a woman. Simple. Nothing to do with race. Nothing to do with it at all. And then a woman come up to me and says, "You're a misogynist." And I says, "Why is that?" She says, "Where's your sign that says a woman can't become a man?" Simple. And I said, "It reads the same. It reads the same back and forth. I mean, come on. This is the level of, I don't want to say stupidity, but the psychological terrorism that we've been facing has bedded in. So it's just become so fractious, this debate. It really has.
It's really interesting. It's very interesting that how people can believe something absurdity, basically, and how you can make that an issue that people will have an argument over. And it's incredible psychological fact. It's weird.
I mean, there's been situations where it's not really an argument. I'm having a conversation with someone and she's giving it to me. She's saying, what if you had a 6-year-old, would you let them change gender? I said, absolutely not. Are you kidding me on? No, I would say go back and play with your toys. And shush. Yes. And at the same time, while I'm having this argument or this conversation, someone else with the public will come and join the conversation, and they'll start arguing, and then it just multiplies. And then, this is the first time that I think people have had this conversation out in public without the fear of saying the wrong thing.
In that sense, you're actually doing a public service
yes.
in enabling that conversation to be had, because I used to see politicians going, "This is a conversation which we must have," meaning we have absolutely no intention of having a conversation about this, but
Absolutely,
I'm going to say this anyway because it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what you're doing is you actually are facilitating conversations on this particular matter, and the nation, such as it is having a conversation on the streets of Rutherglen.
Yes,
let's see you having a conversation, or at least addressing the people with this little video that we've got. I think it's a 2-minute video of you with your sandwich board. Let's line that up and go ahead and play that. And so people get a flavour of what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Bear in mind, I made the sandwich
board
on a
beautiful whim. People of Rutherglen. This is a sign of the times. I said in my last speech that Scotland is going round in circles because one of your feet is nailed down. Well, let me introduce you to the nail. The sign that I'm wearing is the nail that is holding us down. 7 words. A man can't become a woman. Simple. This is a sign that is triggering the whole street. Interesting that, isn't it? A sign of the times that this entire street, 100% of us, can't agree on something that's so utterly simple. So obvious there should be no question. A man can't become a woman. Simple. If I could take all the hormone drugs on the planet, I could undergo any surgery. It's not going to make me a woman. Nothing can, because nothing will. If we can't 100% agree on a matter as simple as this, then I may as well be holding a different sign. The end is nigh. There's only 2 horses in this election, guys. It's me versus a machine. On October 5th, make it simple. Vote Niall Fraser and the Scottish Family Party. Thank you.
You see the people in the background shouting hallelujah.
Oh, well done. Well done. And that got a lot of traction on Twitter. It got retweeted by somebody that's got a large following. And last time I looked on that person's Twitter account, it had over 100,000 views. And I know on your TikTok, it got 50,000 views, but then TikTok removed it.
Yes.
Any news about that?
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? I'm running to be an MP in Westminster, and TikTok is effectively influencing this election by censoring my content. It was deemed hate speech and hateful behaviour. That speech that you just witnessed there, Alistair, was hate speech and hateful behaviour. And
incredible.
It's simply incredible. And again, it got 50,000 views in a matter of hours. Then I appeal the restrictions, it gets put back up, and then the views keep climbing. Again, binned, taken off. All my content on TikTok seems to be getting targeted and mass reported for just simple things like that. How that can be deemed hate speech is beyond me. It really is.
It is a good question, that, and it needs an answer, quite frankly, because nothing there was hate speech. My goodness me, to advocate hate would be a serious thing, and it's nowhere close to anything that you said. You were just literally pointing out the facts of the matter, and for the TikTok algorithms to decide that that's a bad thing. Who knows how on earth that happened? I can only imagine it got mass reported by a certain section of the community, maybe even people who are simply unsympathetic to your party, without even being unsympathetic to the message. Who knows? But there was some kind of mass reporting of that.
Yeah.
And they just whether a real person decided to remove it or whether it automatically got.
Adam's question there. So I just may answer the question before it fires away. But I've not dreamt of it. I've had nightmares, Adam. This is the thing. I don't think Scotland's ready for perhaps what we've got in store for them yet. I just don't think we're ready for this. We need another few years in order to be fully equipped. We might see a shock result in this election. I say that we can make history twice in Scotland, in Rutherglen and Hamilton West. I don't think the residents in the constituency of Rutherglen and Hamilton West know their importance. We can defeat this hideous gender lie, not on behalf of just Scotland and the UK, but we can defeat it on behalf of the whole, entire West, who is undergoing this psychological torture of this gender ideology. And we can defeat it here. We can lead the world again in terms of just enlightening people and taking them away from this insidious lie.
Yes. I think what you're saying there is a good point about how sometimes the country's not ready for something for a little while. There's an awful lot of things that have kept us confused for years and years and years, and there's a lot of truth that's going to come out in the future, and whether people are ready for that right now, I don't know. As you say, perhaps they're not really ready for the truth because they can't handle the truth, as they say. But who knows? How do you respond, and you must get this from people coming up and going, well, I like what you say, Niall, and you're basically the best candidate as far as ideology is concerned, but we've got to get rid of the SNP, so we can only vote for Labour on this one. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but what do you say to that?
Well, let me give you, this is a funny story as well, right? So we're at, me and Richard Lucas, the leader, we're at delivering leaflets to, I think it was Cambuslang, and we're doing the doors, and as we're exiting the scheme, we just hear this car tearing up behind us, right up next to us, screeching on the brakes, right next to us. The windies go down. Is this your leaflet? Yes. Love what you're doing, but I can't vote for you. We thought we were going to get the leaflet thrown at us, but they say, I love what you're doing, but, and this is the kicker, I can't vote for you because we need the SNP out so much. And I can understand that rationale. Everyone can understand that rationale. The SNP are the cancer that is killing us. They are. And I haven't seen one SNP canvasser on all the time that I've been on the high street. Not one. I think they're purposely avoiding the area. I think they're getting abused off the street. I think they're so detested that it must be horrendous having to canvass for the SNP. It really must. But the answer, what I would say is, if everyone that was intending on voting Labour purely to get SNP out gave their votes to me instead, we could change Scotland overnight. It would be changed irrevocably overnight. The conversation would move in our direction where it needs to move. Then our policies, what we are saying, would be then adopted by, say, the Tories. They would then be pushing things like what we're pushing. It's all about changing the conversation and moving it forward. I understand the fear. The fear is the SNP moves on. If I end up splitting the vote, one man splits the vote, when there's 14 candidates. It's just outrageous. This is why I say there's only two horses in this race, me and the machine. Labour being part of that machine that has its boot on our necks, that is eroding our freedoms, that are pushing the same things that the SNP are. My final sort of thoughts on what I would sort of say to these people is, I understand the rationale. I wouldn't be too hurt if you voted Labour in order to remove the SNP. But this paradigm of voting for the best of the bad bunch to get rid of this cancerous SNP needs to stop, because we'll never move forward. We'll always be in this apparatus with the machine controlling us. Burgie Burger says it's like a hamster wheel. It goes round and round and round. I don't know why I steal Daenerys Targaryen's line, but we need to break the wheel.
Yes. Very, very good point. Very good point. And unfortunately, Labour are just like the SNP on certainly these issues that you're highlighting, the gender thing. They're wanting to make all of that legal and they undoubtedly would if they got into power at Westminster. So we shouldn't go into this imagining it's all going to be rosy under Labour. Labour will have the power to change the United Kingdom if they are elected next year, and they will go ahead and they will do it, and we can all just take a deep breath, basically, as far as that's concerned, because it won't necessarily be much better than what it is at the moment.
Well, I mean, and it's just another wee brief thing as well. Michael Shanks, the Labour candidate, he's not the one campaigning in Rutherglen. It's Keir Starmer, it's Anis Sarwar, it's Angela Rayner. They're sending up activists from England. They're bussing them up in order to campaign. This isn't one local man trying to be elected. This is a whole apparatus, a machine of activists claiming the seat as their own.
Yeah. And actually, what that shows as well is, the Scottish nationalists will say, oh, Scotland's just a secondary thought to Westminster, it's irrelevant and so on. But the fact of the matter is this is one of the most crucial British by-elections in years as far as these parties are concerned. And if Labour didn't win, then that will have repercussions on next year's British general election. So, I mean, Scotland, putting aside the players in this particular election, including yourself, as far as this election is concerned, as far as Scotland's concerned, it's a very crucial British-wide election, which could change the face of British politics for better or for worse for many years. So Scotland is again playing a central role in the British Parliament at this particular election. By-elections in Scotland are far more important than by-elections in Middle England, because they hold that crucial balance. Are you going to get Labour? Are you going to get SNP or even Lib Dem or Tory?
The seats in Scotland are Labour's key to Westminster, effectively, and this is why we're seeing Keir Starmer up here personally. Sir Keir Starmer walking the streets of Rutherglen. I don't think he's going to change one mind at all. Not one. It's farcical to think that Sir Keir Starmer would come to Scotland and somehow we would just drop to our knees and vote for him immediately. Just laughable.
Yes, it is. It is a bit. Now, somebody asked the question there. Have you been in? Let me see. Where are we? That's just. It was Alan. Are you going to be on any of the forthcoming debate nights?
I don't think so, Alan. The thing is, I've not been invited to one. You would think that all 14 candidates should be entitled to these debate nights. I don't think they want me in the debates, Alistair. I'll wipe the floor with a lot of them. That's the thing. I could win the election in one debate, literally, and they will not allow me to debate any of the other candidates. They just won't.
It's a good point.
They'll keep me as far away as possible. I could win the election in one or two of these debates, minimum. I would wipe the floor when they wouldn't be able to handle it. And this is the thing. This is why I'm going to be excluded from these debate nights. And it's laughable. I think SNP's vote share, if you look at the last vote, Margaret Ferrier won quite a lot of votes. This time it's going to be almost a thousand, a couple thousand at best. I think the SNP are going subterranean at this point. No one in their right mind is voting SNP in the area. They know the damage they've done. Just the general anti-politician rhetoric we're getting in Rutherglen's huge.
Good. We've got the next debate night. We'll put up the pic of that, and I think it's on the 20th. And we've got the address if anybody wants to be in the audience to perhaps show you some support. So we'll put out, there it is, 20th of September in Rutherglen.
Maybe I should apply to be in the audience as well, Alistair. If they're not going to have me on the panel, why shouldn't I be, as a candidate, allowed in the audience to ask my questions?
Well, good point. You can try. There's one next week, the week after in Kelso, and then one in Perth. So that's three before the all-important Rutherglen by-election. Maybe we hold out hope that you might. I know if you did, then okay. I know if you did, then you would definitely generate viral videos on Twitter for them, so they should definitely have you on if they want the eyeballs.
It's crazy, Alistair. I used to think, how are we going to go viral? And now I don't even need to do anything. I just go viral at the drop of a hat. It makes no sense. It's honestly, it's and I don't want to be this ratings monster either. But it just seems like everything I say has been either torn out of proportion or it's just getting an insane amount of views. But if the BBC wanted the good viewership, then include me. But don't expect me to go easy on the candidates. Not at all.
Now, this is going to be the first election in Scotland where you have to take along voter ID. And so I wouldn't want to think that MD went along and forgot their ID. So what is it that they need to bring?
So I think it's a driver's license or a passport, or I'll have to get more information on this. So I was talking to the Electoral Commission about this, or the Electoral Office about this. This is the first time in history it's been done.
Right.
I mean, this is the thing. We're making history like twice or three times here in this election. This election's been done at a drop of a hat, right? And I was speaking to another candidate. She's on the list there, Colette Walker, last night. Colette's blind, right? And she was given, such a short window in order to go and get signatures. And if you can imagine, it's really easy for me to go and chap a door. It really is. But for Colette, this is a very difficult task. She's got a guide dog. She doesn't know the area, right? So she's, you see what I'm saying here? It's very difficult in order. So I think we might even put a complaint in the Electoral Commission about in such a short window in order to, one, gather signatures, and two, actually campaign. It's so short, this campaign. It really is.
Yes, it is indeed. They certainly made it very quick in that way. I'll tell you something that you might be aware of, but I stood as well as a candidate in your constituency back on the 23rd of September 1999, when it was the Hamilton South Westminster by-election. Now, Hamilton South got changed. It got split into two constituencies in 2005, and one of them is the one that you're now standing in. So when I stood, and we'll put up my result, there was 14 candidates. No, there was 12 candidates, and I came 10th. There you go, down at the bottom there. UKIP, Alistair McConnachie, 61 votes. Now,
well done for doing it in the first place, Alistair. This is the thing, it's the action. Yes. So, I mean, fair play.
Yes, and I remember that very clearly. And there at the top, Labour won, with the SNP, again, very closely following, just with a few hundred votes behind. And that was back when the Scottish Socialists were a power. They're not anymore. They're just I should imagine you're going to tank them. You'll get more than they'll get.
Yeah.
But it was good experience anyway. But nobody knew who UKIP were back then. I was one of the first people to stand in Scotland for them. I was actually was I the first candidate ever? I can't recall. I don't quite think I was, but I might have been. Actually. Anyway.
You're a history maker, Alistair, that's for sure.
Yes, well, both of us in that regard. It's at the top of the hour. Now, thanks very much for bringing us the Jen from the streets, from actually somebody who's campaigning right out there. We know that the mainstream media is going to try to suppress you and deboost you, and where it can, chuck you off their platforms. So we're happy to give you as much airtime on this alternative.
So appreciative.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative to the Alistair. Like I said, TikTok should not be removing the content of an MP candidate. They just shouldn't. And likewise, I mean, Twitter's been fine, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. It's been fine. But really, TikTok, it's a view machine. I mean, I didn't know the power of TikTok until I was getting 100,000, 200,000 views on the videos, and I was like, how is this happening? It must be the sort of app that's in everyone's hands,
It is at the moment. We've had much more success on TikTok than we ever get on YouTube, but that's a different story entirely. Let me say thank you very much. More power to your elbow. Now, are you going to be out this Saturday? I should imagine.
I'll be out tomorrow canvassing. I'll be out on Friday at the street stall as always. I'll be out on Saturday. If you're on Rutherglen Main Street, or even if you aren't, if you want to just head down to the High Street, you can't miss me. 11 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. on Saturday. And I'll be doing Saturday's my speech day, so I'll write a new speech every Saturday and we'll go and deliver it on the hour all the way up to the election.
Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. Well, well done you for everything that you do, and more power to your elbow. So
thank you.
All the best with your campaign now. We'll say goodnight. Cheers. Fantastic. Good to see Niall there. Good man. Does a lot of good work for the cause of truth in the world. Paul has a comment. We're living in an age of identity. We can be what we want. If I wish to identify as a voter in Niall's constituency, can I vote for him? Good question. Good question. Probably. Derek says he wishes Niall the best. Christopher says best of British Niall in all ways. Stuart says great stuff as usual. Catherine says interesting interview, thanks Niall. Derek says brilliant show, hope Niall gets in. William Kimmett, it's the Scottish Family Party is Niall's party. Ken says great show. Good. Well, folks, it's the top of the hour. We will be back next week with a guest. And please do help us out if you can. We have got t-shirts for sale at our t-shirts store. There's one of them right there. British and Proud, worn by one of our fantastic activists. We'll put the link out. You'll find that in the thread. It's a really good one. British and Proud, there you go. You'll also get the classic AFFG shirt. There you go. And you'll find that you'll find the link to the t-shirts at our shop. There you go. aforceforgood.uk/shop-1. Go there. At the top is a link to our t-shirt store. But that's how we get our organisation funded by you, the viewer funded, as they say. And thank you to all those who do help us. Folks, if you can spare anything, please send something in to aforceforgood.uk/donate to. So folks, it just remains for me to say we'll be back next week. God bless the United Kingdom and God save the King. See you next time.